Did you get a nasty HOA notification letter? Are you ticked off about it? Then you're in the right place. You are not alone. Throughout the US, a lot of people get nasty HOA notification letters. Every day someone is getting a nasty HOA notification letter somewhere. These nasty HOA notification letters are an ongoing source of irritation and aggravation for many homeowners. And you have good reason to be upset about it. The reason why is that if you're anything like me, you don't like people telling you what you should be doing with your property, especially if you consider yourself a responsible homeowner. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance you consider yourself a responsible homeowner. Having said all that, when you move into an HOA, there are terms that you agreed to prior to buying and moving into an HOA. They are the CCRs. Whether you read them or not, they are there, and you should familiarize yourself with them. Most established HOAs hire a management company to enforce the CCRs by issuing letters and notices to demand compliance. Most management companies, through the HOA CCRs, have the power to issue fines and take other legal actions if necessary. If you have gotten a nasty HOA notification letter, the first thing you should do is to carefully read the letter. Read the letter at least twice. The reason why I say this is that it's fairly common to misinterpret or miss the central issue and complaint of the letter, especially if you're angry or heated up. Ask me how I know. Most of the letters that are generated are impersonal form letters, and they tend to upset homeowners a lot. Now, there are some very easy letters to interpret, such as if you got busy, haven't picked up your trash, cleaned up your yard, or have overgrown bushes. These types of notice letters are very straightforward. Most homeowners have gotten tagged with one of these types of letters. If they have lived in an HOA long enough, they are generally routine form letters and not really a big deal. Unless you have been a victim of an overly aggressive HOA or management company, or you feel that you are unnecessarily being harassed, for most homeowners, the easiest thing to do is just take care of it and move on. However, if you feel you are dealing with a persistently aggressive HOA or management company over the smallest things, I would consider writing a complaint letter to the HOA Board that they are being overly aggressive in their enforcement and explain why you think that is the case. It doesn't have to be a fancy letter. It can be as simple as a short email. I recommend you write in a professional tone whenever possible. But the point is that if you feel strong enough about your position and you are willing to sign your name to it, then and send it to someone, it sends a message. You can certainly make a verbal complaint, but then you won't have a written record on file if you need to refer to it later. HOAs are led by board members elected by the residents of a community. To be on the board, you generally have to own and reside in a home within that community. In theory, all board members are subject to the same rules you are. In theory, the enforcement of those rules should apply equally to all resident members. But I am sure you know that doesn't always happen, which is a topic for another video. Complaints about overly aggressive HOA management companies will generally perk up the ears of at least a couple of HOA board members. The general reasoning is that if it can happen to an HOA community member, it can potentially happen to themselves or other HOA board members. Overly aggressive management companies can create unrest, anger, and dissatisfactions with residents. Unfortunately, it is self-defeating for management companies to be overly aggressive with the residents because residents could eventually become future board members and then ultimately fire the management company for it. Or if nothing else, residents can create a lot of headaches and stress for the HOA board members who are generally working on a voluntary basis and for free. Often they are thankless jobs. When you get your HOA notification letter, you may feel like you are alone, when in fact there may well be other homeowners that feel the same way as you do. That the management company is being too strict or too aggressive in their enforcement. Always be mindful that there are some residents and board members that prefer strict rule enforcement. By submitting your own complaint, you will give your voice and weight to other members who have complained about similar issues. The ages, backgrounds, and sensibilities of HOA board members can fluctuate from year to year. They tend to evolve based on how much turnover the board has. That means there can be a period of time where one board collectively feels one way regarding how strictly they will enforce policies, but because of a change in board members, you may find an HOA board's feelings can change and evolve in future years. You won't really know unless you make a direct complaint or communicate with board members. HOA boards often allow its members to communicate, complain, and share their grievances during an appointed time at a monthly meeting. Those are sometimes the best times to communicate and affect change within your HOA. This is where you will get the most feedback and general reactions on your complaint about an overly aggressive management company. As a general rule, I try to be a give and take type of person. That means I may take a strong and firm stance in one area, but I may soften my stance and be flexible in other areas. This leads me to the next scenario. What happens if an HOA makes a demand for an expensive or significant change against your property? This is a central issue. Most HOAs do not generally care what happens inside your home. You can be as clean or as messy as you want to be. You can be as decorative, colorful, or exotic with your decor inside. The interior of your home is generally off limits with most HOAs, so that isn't going to be the issue. But what happens if they tell you that you have to cut a tree, change your landscaping, change your roof, repaint your house, or replace your sidings? All of these HOA improvement demands are on a much larger and much more substantial scale than taking care of overgrown bushes, lawns, and moving trash bins out of sight. Instinctively, you as a homeowner may bristle at these types of demands because they are not small or inconsequential demands. These types of demands are generally time-consuming, resource-intensive, and expensive. When faced with these types of demands, this is where I encourage you to think and reflect before responding. This is where I tell people to read over their CCRs, their HOA architectural guidelines, and find out if the HOA can actually make the kinds of demands being issued and how specific they can be. The general idea of reading the CCRs is to find out how strict the proposed standards are and the level of enforcement they can exercise. Does the CCRs provide for some middle ground? Does the CCRs allow sufficient time for such improvements? Does the CCRs allow for requests for time extensions? Does the CCRs allow for flexible specifications? Generally, most HOA board members are not legal experts. They may be more knowledgeable than their fellow residents by virtue of their elected positions, but I find that most HOA board members are reliant on the expertise of the property management company and lawyers. Many HOAs are cautioned against taking overly aggressive actions against any of its residents because it can boomerang against the HOA in unexpected ways. HOAs and management companies are generally risk averse and do not like the possibility of contentious disputes or even a lawsuit. They also don't like the idea of dissatisfaction or even an uprising within an HOA community. Remember, HOA board members are your neighbors. HOA board members are generally unpaid, volunteer positions. As such, most board members do not want to get into unnecessary fights, conflicts, and negative discourse with their neighbors when possible. I won't lie, there are some board members that abuse their position and power, but generally most reasonable people don't like conflict. At the same time, serious board members know they have a certain duty to the overall HOA and will generally not welcome or accept disrespectful, profane, outrageous, or other ridiculous insults and attacks. I say this because some people engage in profane, outrageous, hysterical, and outlandish behavior to get their way on a regular basis. That's a huge pet peeve of mine, and I don't condone this for so many reasons. These types of responses hurt your position, reputation, credibility, and any goodwill you might have had towards your position. This is not the way to go. Now, I do want to share a story. But before I do, my cat Jaggy wants me to tell you that if you hit that like button so he can be seen in this video by more people. And of course, more people can learn about how HOAs work and how to resolve problems. Several years ago, my fiance was sent an HOA notification letter that she needed to replace her roof. We were shocked of this HOA demand letter. This was far different from any ordinary HOA notice letter we had ever seen or heard of. As everyone knows, replacing a roof is a big deal and a costly undertaking. You want to check your homeowner's insurance policy to see if it is eligible for coverage. You need to find out what kind of shingles, brands, and colors are acceptable to the HOA architectural standards. You also need to find and shop around for a reputable roofing contractor. And with all that, you need to find a mutually agreeable time to schedule the roof installation. With all of this, some people may not be financially prepared for such an undertaking. Some homeowners may be financially strapped and have to take out loans or credit card debt to replace a roof. For us, although the roof was showing signs of age, the roof still had some good life in it. In comparing her roof to other houses in the neighborhood, our roof wasn't really that bad. What I did notice, however, was that she had a few wind-blown shingles and that the roof had not been cleaned for many years. The roof was generally in fine condition, but it didn't look as good as it could be, so we accepted that. My fiance looked into the HOA architectural guidelines, and our position was that we could not be made to replace the roof. We, however, read in the rules she had responsibility of maintaining, cleaning, and treating our roof to maintain visual integrity. My proposal was to come up with an alternate solution and plan of action to alleviate this HOA complaint. The roof needed to look good again, or at least good enough to get the management company off our backs. I found a professional roof cleaner to spray and clean our roof for $300. And because he was experienced with climbing on roofs and doing minor repairs, I asked if he could move the unseen shingles that we had to match the roof to replace the missing shingles that other people could see. We would then use the new shingles that really didn't match the roof to cover the areas of the transplanted shingles. He also removed the ugly satellite dishes installed by the previous owner. After he was done, the roof was as clean as we had ever seen it. Taking it a step further, we hired someone to professionally spray wash the entire house and the driveway. After the spray washing was completed, both the house and the driveway looked incredible. The house was brightened up. After everything was done, we drafted a response letter of what we had done and sent it to the management company. We explained that we made repair to the roof and we professionally cleaned the roof to improve the exterior appearance. We explained that we took the initiative to spray wash both the house and the driveway, further improving the exterior appearance without being asked to do it. Finally, we stated we would likely replace the roof in the next couple of years. It was our assessment that the central issue that caused the HOA notification letter was the poor appearance of the roof, not that we actually had to replace the roof. By offering our own solution to the roof complaint and then taking the initiative to do a little bit more than what they asked by spray washing the entire house and driveway, we felt like we exceeded their expectations and requests to improve the exterior appearance of the house. Now, we copied an HOA board member of our 3-page response letter that we wrote to the management company. Our response letter did get the intended outcome from the management company, and our case was happily resolved. However, if the management company had not closed the case, we would have escalated and appealed the matter to the HOA board directly and asked for a hearing. Now, I know there are many other situations that can come up, and the personal dynamics of every HOA and management company are unique. However, the central issues of most HOA complaints are, number one, over appearance, both overall appearance and specific appearance. Number two, we have conformity, both overall conformity and specific conformity. Like it or not, HOAs try to force conformity, sometimes to a fault. The less you conform to the overall community, the more likely you will attract attention. And if the HOA and management company call out a specific item, your job is to show you generally conform to the community, even if there are minor deviations. It's been my experience that a property that generally looks good overall in appearance will be less likely to be picked on for specific items. Again, that's a general statement. In resolving HOA notices, I generally recommend people try to find creative or even alternative solutions that helps them resolve or at least mitigates the issue being complained about. It also helps if your immediate neighbors around your house are not offended or upset with the issue being complained about. It helps to informally poll them and ask their opinion. It also shows your neighbors you care enough to ask about their opinion. Two strategies I always recommend is mitigating the complaint and asking for time extensions. Let's say you have an overgrown lawn, overgrown bushes, a lot of weeds in the grass, and a tree that needs to be cut down. And you have to do all of this within 2 weeks. However, you don't have the time or the money to take care of all these things within 2 weeks. What you don't want to happen is to have the HOA think that you are ignoring the notice or being non-responsive. Using this particular scenario, you can take care of the items that you can and make progress on other items you cannot complete. And then write a response letter of the things you have done and the progress you have made, while also asking for a reasonable amount of additional time. Asking for a reasonable amount of time is tricky because it is dependent on a lot of things. However, for me, I generally like to ask for at least 30 days. But you should ask for what you want and what you think is reasonable. Always ask for more than less. Similar to municipal code enforcement agencies, most reasonable HOAs will give you additional time. What they want to see is responsiveness and progress being made. Now, as you request for a time extension for the HOA management company, I recommend initiating contact with the HOA board to open a dialogue. What you are looking to accomplish is to have at least 1 or 2 advocates on your behalf on the board as a backup measure. If you have never initiated a conversation or any kind of relationship with board members, now is a good time to start. I have found that investing some time in creating goodwill with HOA board members goes a long way to helping your cause, and not just for the immediate problem, but for any other issues that may come up in the future. Being an occasional volunteer and attending occasional social functions within the HOA community can go a long way to helping smooth out disputes or disagreements with an HOA. When all else fails, file an HOA with a formal appeal. There are generally procedures in place to file a formal appeal. You will generally have to request an appeal to the HOA board in writing. You need to check with your HOA board or management company for the specific procedures to appeal your issue. When you hold an appeal, I suggest you remind everyone that you are a resident, you want to get along, and you want to have good relations. And you want to keep the focus on the central issue that you are disputing, and create as much personal goodwill if you can. But don't be a pushover, be firm. If you have any proposed solutions, offer them up for consideration. Make sure you check out my next video about HOAs and hit that like button. My cat Jaggy would greatly appreciate it.